Ann Scheiber retired at the age of 51, she only had $5,000 in her pocket. Fast forward to her death, she had amassed a whopping $22 million and was considered the greatest female investor of all time. Her stock portfolio was so strong that she quietly outperformed some of the greatest investors of her period. When she was alive, she was a little girl born into poverty. She lived in a one-bedroom apartment, wore the same clothes every day, and never married or had children. She stole food from shareholder meetings and saved every penny she could. Nobody knew who she was. But after her death, she transformed into an angel who saw the hardships faced by Jewish women and chose to donate all her money to charity. This is the story of determination, resilience, and a secret that would alter the lives of thousands. This is the incredible story of Ann Scheiber. Born in 1893 in Brooklyn, Ann Scheiber's story began in a Jewish immigrant family with 9 other siblings. She witnessed the first stroke of destiny when her father died prematurely. Her mother was forced to work as a real estate broker to raise her, but her earnings were never sufficient to feed 10 hungry mouths. Witnessing her family's financial struggles, Ann faced the harsh realities of poverty from a young age. In a society where education was only prioritized for the boys, she worked as a bookkeeper at 15 and attended night school to continue her education. Despite the difficulties of her early years, Ann managed to graduate from Washington National University in 1924. But rather than practicing law, she decided to work as an auditor with the IRS, which according to her was a more secure job option. During her job in the IRS, her colleagues used to call her the tax whisperer for her unmatched abilities to discover irregularities and unreported income. Despite standing barely 5 feet tall, her favorite move was to march in and announce, "Clearly, these books aren't the correct ones. When I come back tomorrow, show me the real ones." Then she used to walk out with a heroic swag. She was like a walking terror to everyone. For 23 years, she worked with the IRS as one of their best auditors, yet she never received any promotion and always earned less than $4,000 annually. This treatment reflects the gender-based discrimination of that era, and she learned that even IRS officials perceived her identity as a Jewish woman rather than a hardworking auditor. The second thing that she learned in her career was that the surest way to get rich in America was to invest in stocks, and she took this learning very seriously. She didn't have a huge amount of capital to invest, so she decided to follow the path of extreme frugality. She lived in a one-bedroom apartment, wearing the same black coat and hat every day, regardless of the season, and limited her weekly food budget to just $2. When her niece once bought her a new coat, Ann refused to wear it just because it cost $150. For her, this amount was so big that it could have fed her for almost 75 weeks. She was also known for taking food from shareholder meetings to eat over several days, and these habits continued forever. But this was just the beginning of her remarkable journey, a journey that changed her fortune. Her first encounter with the stock market happened in the late 1930s when she entrusted a major portion of her savings to the youngest of her 4 brothers, Bernard, who was getting started at 22 as a Wall Street broker. He initially did well in stock selection, but in the depth of economic depression, it went bust suddenly, and Ann lost all her money. After this incident, she carried a lifelong bitterness towards her broker brother, and some of this anger was understandable. After all, she had accumulated the money penny by penny for years. By skipping meals, wearing clothes until they frayed, and even walking to work in the rain to save bus fare. And suddenly, everything turned to dust. But while most people gave up investing after this Wall Street crash, Ann took the matter into her own capable hands and decided to dip her toes into investments. In 1944, she retired from her job and settled in New York City. At the age of 51, when most people retired, Ann decided to retry. With just $5,000, which she had in her savings, she opened a Merrill Lynch account and began her stock market journey. The first principle that Ann followed in investing was to buy what you know. She only invested in companies she felt she understood, like pharmaceuticals, beverages, and entertainment. As she was approaching old age, her growing knowledge about the pharmaceutical industry guided her to invest in companies such as Pfizer, Bristol-Myers, Allied Chemicals, and Schering-Plough. Sometimes she followed her instincts on untested companies. For example, when Pepsi-Cola came along, she tried it and then bought PepsiCo shares when it was just a new kid on the block. Anne also believed in capitalizing on her interests. Her passion for movies drove her to invest in entertainment companies, turning her hobby into a key part of her investment portfolio. And she scored big with Columbia, Paramount, Lowe's, and Capital Cities Broadcasting. Her philosophy of buy what you know was so strong that she even avoided the advice of her broker sometimes. Apart from a few hundred shares of Apple and MCI, she never invested in any tech company. According to William Fay, her broker, she didn't trust technology because she didn't understand it, so she resisted investing in it. But knowing what to buy was just one part of her success. The real magic came from managing those investments over nearly 3 decades. She applied the buy and hold strategy, which helped her to harness the power of compound interest, a concept Albert Einstein famously called the eighth wonder of the world. For example, in 1950, Anne purchased 1,000 shares of Schering-Plough and held onto them till the end of her days. By stock split and reinvestment of the dividends, these 1,000 shares multiplied, eventually growing up to 128,000 shares, worth $7.5 million by the time of her death. She also never sold anything because she hated paying commissions. Instead of fattening up brokers, she preferred holding for a long time. She even reinvested her dividends in the same companies, and this reinvestment strategy further fueled the compounding process, enabling her portfolio to grow exponentially over the decades. And secondly, as an ex-IRS auditor, Anne was acutely aware of how taxes could eat away at her investment gains. She was on a mission to keep every dollar possible. So she decided to play the long game. By holding on to her investments for years, she also minimized her tax rates on capital gains. And this turned out to be the smartest move in her investing journey. Apart from investment strategy and her tax-saving habit, perhaps the most remarkable trait of her personality was her psychological resilience. She witnessed many big market fluctuations, yet she remained calm and confident about her choices. During the market crash of the 1970s, her portfolio was down by 50%, but she still didn't sell. Once she believed in a company, she stayed with it for the rest of her life. She never cared whether the market was up or down. This resilience set her apart from other investors. Even the brightest lacked the courage to hold on during a market fall. But against all odds, Anne held on. In her 51 years of investing, she never followed any greedy market trends. She had unwavering faith in her methods, and perhaps this faith paid off. By the time she died, her initial $5,000 investment had increased by 439,900%, growing to a value of $22 million in 1995. The world was already amazed by her wealth, but the real surprise came after her death, one that sent shockwaves through everyone who thought they knew her. The entire $22 million was gone, vanished, and all that was left was just a handwritten note. In a way, you could say that Scheiber was driven by anger. She was angry because despite being the best auditor of the IRS, they perceived her with discrimination. She was angry because her broker brother wasted all her savings. But she turned her anger into a powerful fuel that melted the shackles of all social discrimination. Being one of the best investors of her time, she made her last investment for a purpose that goes beyond the greed of Wall Street's. After her death, her lawyer Clark was given a handwritten letter by Anne in which she outlined her life, her belief in helping other women, and her desire to donate her entire fortune of $22 million to New York City's Yeshiva University, which led to the establishment of Anne Scheiber Scholarship at Yeshiva University. This gift came to the university at the time when Jews celebrate Hanukkah by lighting 8 candles as an auspicious symbol of their festival. However, Anne illuminated 22 million candles of hope instead of 8. Although she never visited the school, she wanted to help young women by educating them. In her own words, she said, "Someday, when I'm long dead, there will be some women who won't have to fend for themselves." This lady, who never bought a coat for herself, donated millions to empower women. She never married and lived without any family. In her last 5 years, she didn't get even a single call from anyone. But ultimately, all her struggles became the chronicle of success. Her legacy continues to inspire many, not only in the investing world, but to all the women across the globe. Upon her death, the president of the Yeshiva University remarked, "Here's a woman who for 100 years was childless and now becomes a mother to a whole community, not only now, but for generations to come." Anne Scheiber's journey is the ultimate story of patience, discipline, and the power of compounding. But if you're ready to shift gears and dive into the wild world of high-stakes finance, fraud, and redemption, don't miss our previous video on Jordan Belfort. Discover how a meat salesman managed to scam an entire country and became the Wolf of Wall Street. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel to stay tuned for more incredible stories from the world of investing. See you in the next video.